Hey YouTube, welcome back. Today we're going to continue with my 10-week fat loss series, and I'm going to walk you through the very first week of this fat loss phase. So last week and in the last video I walked you through how I set up the plan and the tasks, the goals for week to week, day to day for this fat loss to get the results that I'm after. Okay, so if you haven't seen that video, do go and watch it because that is a very important video and it's going to make this video a lot easier to understand. In this video, I'm going to walk you through what's happened in that first week, the sort of feedback that I'm looking for, the information I'm looking for that will then dictate whether or not I make adjustments, and then if I have made adjustments, why and how I've made them. So just to quickly recap sort of the initial plan and what my goals are, tasks are, sort of day to day, okay? So I came to the conclusion that if I continued with 5 weight training sessions across the week, did 10,000 steps a day, hit 2,800 calories and kept my protein around 160 to 190, that would result in a 2 pound a week loss, okay? Now again, to get the results that I'm after, I'm going to need at least a minimum 2 pounds a week loss for the whole of the 10 weeks. I might try and even push that to 3 if needed and where possible. Okay, so that was the plan that I had, that's the plan that I set, and this is what I executed, this is what I did the first week. Now, before I get into what I saw the first week and the feedback that I'm looking for, obviously I had to bear in mind, and I walked this through in the last video, that in the first initial weeks you're going to get potentially a little bit more of a fluctuation in weight, so maybe a bigger drop because of stuff like water weight. And that's something you have to take into consideration when it comes to the result that you get, and that's some of the feedback that you have to take in to whether or not you're going to make adjustments. Okay, so in the first week I lost 3 pounds. Okay, so that being said, in terms of the weekly targets, the weekly rate of loss I need to achieve to get the results I want, first week was quite successful, okay? But like I've just spoken about, within the initial weeks you're potentially expecting a bit more of a drop because of the likes of water weight. So when I look at 3 pounds in the first week, I was actually expecting potentially a little bit more, maybe towards the 4, because obviously again, maybe a decent amount of this is going to be water weight, which then leads me to think and to start to predict going into future weeks whether or not the tasks that I did have set, the 10,000 calories, 10,000 steps, 2,800 calories, 5 weight training sessions, whether or not that is actually going to lead to 2 pounds a week minimum, right? So even though I got 3 pounds lost this week, which is good, decent, because it was the initial week, and I was maybe potentially expecting a bit more, I'm now a little bit, let's say, concerned whether I am actually going to get a 2 pound a week loss from week to week. Now, rather than making adjustments straight away, whenever you're looking at getting a result, whenever you're, doing something like this where you're trying to drop body fat, one of the things you want to do is watch that you don't make adjustments too quickly. Okay, so even though this is just 1 week, and even though the rate of loss for the first week might not have been as high as I was expecting, we don't want to make adjustments too early. The issue of making adjustments too early is that where you're currently sat might actually be fine, even though you're concerned it's not, and then you used some tools available like dropping food intake, increasing expenditure too early, when in reality you could have kept them in your toolbox to be able to use them later down the line. Okay, so we don't want to use things too early. So one of the things I would suggest is at least giving things 2 weeks before you look at making adjustments. Okay, so 2 weeks where you might not be getting the results you expected. After 2 weeks, you can then start to look at making adjustments. So even though my rate of loss was maybe a little bit lower than I was expecting for the first week, we're going to keep all the targets the same. We're going to run it again for another week, and we're going to see what happens next week. If next week what I was concerned about was true, and say next week I don't get 2 pounds 2 pounds loss that week, then I can maybe look at adjusting these to then increase the size of the deficit. However, if next week I do get 2 or I get another 3 pounds, then potentially, that's fine. We can leave things where they are, and I'm happy with it. But we're going to run it for a second week just to double check. We're not going to make adjustments too quickly. Now, other than just looking at weight moving, there's other signs and other things we want to look for, which I will continue to look for week to week to help us again gauge whether we need to make adjustments to the plan. Some of those bits of feedback that we're looking for include training performance. Okay, so as the weeks go on, I'm always tracking numbers that I'm hitting in the gym. So I'm tracking, the amount of sets that I'm doing, the amount of reps that I'm hitting for those sets, the amount of weight that I'm hitting within those sets and those reps. Okay, so I'm always tracking what I'm doing within the gym, and what I'm looking for is what my training performance is doing. Okay, so whether those numbers are going up, whether those numbers are holding, or whether those numbers are dropping. Okay, now when you're in a deficit and you're trying to drop body fat, obviously you've got less energy available. Okay, that's what being in a deficit is. So you can expect training performance to obviously then not be as, let's say, as high as it would be if you were at maintenance or in a surplus. Okay, so what you're probably looking for in terms of training performance is at least, just sort of your training performance holding. Okay, maintaining. So the reps that you're hitting, the weight that you're hitting, just holding from week to week. Not necessarily going up, but it might. But what we really don't want to see is it dropping. We don't want to see things regressing. Okay. So week to week, I'll be looking and seeing how's training going. This week, training's actually been absolutely fine. I've actually still made some progressions in the gym, so things have actually gone up a little bit across some movements. Some movements have held, which is absolutely fine, but nothing's dropped yet, which is fantastic. Okay, so from a training standpoint, we can tick that off. Next, you want to look at just general energy levels. Okay, this is going to also come to mood to a degree, but general energy levels. So how are you feeling throughout the day, day to day? Okay, simply put on this one, again, when you've been in a deficit for a while, you've got a little bit less energy. You're going to expect energy levels to potentially drop a little bit. Okay, obviously, if energy levels are getting very, very low and you're feeling shit day to day, then that is a sign some things potentially need to change. For me, however, energy levels for the majority of the day are absolutely fine. I get tired a little bit earlier in the day than I did before, but that's to be expected. Some changes to be expected, but as a whole, absolutely spot on. Next, we have hunger. Okay, so again, when you're in a deficit, food's dropped, you're going to expect an increase in hunger, right? As the deficit goes on, that hunger is likely going to increase further and further and further. Now, we don't want hunger to get unmanageable. Okay, so say for example, we'd created an even bigger deficit, dropped food even more, increased expenditure even higher, and hunger was crazy high, unmanageable, and all that meant is we were actually struggling to stick to those targets, then things would have needed adjusted. Okay, hunger for me this week has been fine, not an issue at all. Obviously, I'm noticing hunger a lot more, but there's still low levels, and it's still relatively easy to manage. Two things that really help with that is one, having that protein target set. So again, I've got that protein target set from 0.8 up to 1.2 grams per pound of body weight, and I've got room that I can potentially even move that higher if I need to, if hunger does get worse. And also veg intake. So I've just made sure that my veg intake is almost doubled to what it was before I went into a fat loss phase. Increasing that food volume is going to massively help with hunger. So my hunger management has been spot on. Sleep. Are you sleeping fine? Are you finding it easy to get off to sleep? Are you sleeping through the night? Are you waking up feeling relatively fresh, ready to go? Obviously, you're still going to feel a little bit tired when you wake up, but are you feeling relatively fresh and ready to go? For me, sleep's been absolutely fine, absolutely spot on, no issues whatsoever. Obviously, when it comes to sleep, stuff like your sleep routine, what you're doing in those few hours leading up to going to bed, are going to be very, very important. And I've actually done a video recently on how to try and optimize your sleep. So go and watch that because it does help a lot. And sleep in itself, like I said in that first video, plays a huge, huge part in everything that we're doing here, and it's so important. And it's going to lead to the best results you can get. But sleep for me has been absolutely spot on. But things you might be looking for later down the line, if that sleep becomes disrupted, if you find it harder to maybe get to sleep, you're waking up through the night, probably more so in this scenario, or you may be feeling like shit, on wake, very tired, then that might be signs that things need to be adjusted. But for me right now, sleep's perfect. And then mood, very similar to energy, right? But more so on an emotional level. So, you know, you find yourself getting angry a lot easier, or you find yourself just low mood, not as positive. You know, signs for sort of mood changing and, you know, changing for the worse. Again, might be signals that things need to be adjusted. But for me, absolutely fine. Mood is no issue. So these are some of the biggest sort of feedback measures that you want to look for. Okay, so yes, we look at weight changing. We also might take pictures to look at visually how we're looking. If we're getting leaner, you know, you would have seen the pictures that I would have put up within this video to sort of show you the difference within 1 week. But these are also other feedback measures that we've got to look for, okay? Because all these can give us signs of when things need to change. Now, for me, obviously, it's only the first week. You know, in an ideal situation, nothing should be flagging up as an issue within the first week, and it hasn't. Everything's gone great. I've dropped 3 pounds again. Yes, potentially would have expected a little bit more, but it's still within that range that I need from week to week. So as a whole, right now, things fantastic. Nothing needs to change. So all we do is stay consistent, adhere to the tasks, and we go again. So hopefully you found this video helpful. Hopefully it's given you an insight into, you know, more so the feedback and what we're looking for. Okay, next week we'll go again. I'll show you what's happened within the week. I'll show you again, go through these very quickly, say if there's any feedback issues and anything that we then might need to adjust. If you did enjoy the video, please do drop a like. If you do have any questions, throw them down below, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe.